Welcome to a new episode of Lights, Camera, Live. And listen, I think that you are absolutely going to enjoy this episode because today we're talking about something that I tend to struggle with a lot. And that's sometimes just finding the right words to say to convey my personality, because sometimes I feel like I'm really, really adorkable and I don't know how to really translate that into copy. And yet I have found someone who can do that for me. He's like a wizard, right? It's like, get all the juiciness of Stephanie's personality and put it into actual words, which most of you already know that I am a visual communicator. I talk with my hands. And so for him to be able to take all of this, box it all up, and put it in an email is absolutely amazing. So if you're here, come on by and say hello. It's so amazing to have you here. We have Mike Alton who is tuning in. Yay! And if you're noticing a new show format, we are using Restream.io. Having a little fun because they announced a new feature where I can show the chat overlay, which I'm really excited about because I've never seen it done before. So I'm curious to see how that's going to pop up. So if you're here, come on by and say hello. And then let's see if I could hide this comment. There you go. All right, cool. So having said that, let me first, I'm going to give him some time to warm up because I freaked him out a little bit. But I want to give a shout out to everyone that showed up to the entrepreneur webinar that just happened a few minutes ago. And it was 94 ways to repurpose your live streaming content. And it was absolutely amazing. We were supposed to go for like an hour. We actually went a little bit over an hour. So I was super excited about that. And the questions were amazing, and I've already seen a ton of you funnel into the Facebook group, so thank you so much. If you weren't able to be there live, then you could still catch the replay. Boom, boom, boom. Head on down over there, entrepreneur.com/events/on-demand. You will get to catch all of the different ways that you could repurpose your content. Plus, you'll get an insider look into how I schedule that content. And again, the questions at the very, very end were absolutely amazing. So having said that, let me introduce you to the one, the amazing, the only, Terry Schilling. Terry, so what's up?
Hello, what's going on? I feel like as you were doing this, I was like, should I just like hide for a minute and then like be like, where'd you go? And zoom in? I don't know if that'd be too weird, but I'm here. But I'm super excited.
No.
That was a hell of an introduction, Stephanie. Thank you so much.
No, you are absolutely amazing. And it's one of those things where as a live streamer, I do what I do best. I live stream, right? And everything else where it's like, if I'm going to struggle with that, you know what? Then I hire out the rest. And it is no secret that when I found Terry, I was like, you get me. You totally get me. And it's been absolutely magical just having him on here. So having said that, you could pose a little bit. You could strike a pose while I read your bio real quickly because you are amazing.
It's like the natural. I find myself, because I've been tapping into some more live videos too, and I find myself like touching, like doing this a lot as I'm like listening.
Like, what do I do with my hands?
Yeah,
With my hands.
Yeah.
No. Okay, you guys. So Terry Schilling, he is absolutely amazing. He's a professional copywriter, copy consultant for creative entrepreneurs, service providers, and for amazing live streamers like yours truly. His copy philosophy, friends, is to help people tell people how cool they can be, not how cool you are. Sorry, that was a tongue twister.
All good.
Here's the cool thing, though, is that he has worked with brands that include 60 hotels, Joybird Furniture, which I was like, hold up, I see those ads and I've clicked on them.
Yeah, they're popping up. It's cool.
And if I clicked on it because it was Terry, then it's all about that. He's worked with Airbnb, Volkswagen, Brooks Brothers. He's the founder of the Copy Co-op Facebook group, along with co-hosting the Copy Corner podcast and hosting Proceed with Passion Live. You know what's funny, Terry?
So much stuff. Yeah.
Is I was talking to a good friend of mine, Tim Sohn, and he's like, man, I have to do this presentation and I haven't warmed up yet. I was like, yes, tongue twisters are super important for warming up. And just reading your freaking bio was like the legit tongue twister of all tongue twisters.
Oh man, yes. The copywriting philosophy, something that, I know. I bet you see it and you're just like, you see the word cool pop up a couple of times. But it really came from, like, I hear a lot, like, keep it customer centric and like make the customer the hero of the journey, right? And I just thought, like, let's make it a little bit clearer and cooler, if you will, because what it is just like tell people how cool they can be and feel instead of how cool you are. Because
Yeah.
that's what a lot of brands do. They manufacture coolness. Like we feel better about ourselves, like when we're using it and helping improve our lives. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where that came from,
That's
just to kind of put
awesome.
a different twist and kind of like it worked. So I'm getting some positive feedback, like, oh my gosh, it's a great way to explain copywriting. So that's what I'm sticking with.
I love it. You guys, honestly, Terry, he's just so magical with his words.
Oh man, thank you.
He he's been helping me out, recapping a lot of the Lights Camera Live blog posts. So if you're seeing them come out, yeah, that's because he's helping me out. He has this amazing team. You guys know I obviously love repurposing, which is what I did with Entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And so it's taking that content, shooting it over to Terry. They're finding my brand voice and they're nailing it. And P.S. by the way, I noticed something and I didn't notice it at first because my screen was minimized.
Yeah.
But do you see this in the studio where okay, you guys have to comment. If you could leave a comment because oh, there it is. Is that all of a sudden, do you see it on your screen where it says,
The chat is ready to display that one?
That's so cool. So basically anytime anyone says something, it will automatically appear there. We won't leave that up too long because I don't want you guys all over Terry's face. But I thought that was a cool feature. You guys, this is a sneak peek at what Restream has to offer. This is answering the question for those of you that are asking, are you using Ecamm Live or StreamYard? Fun fact, I'm actually using both. And let me tell you what that means. That means I'm using my Ecamm virtual cam in here, right? And then I'm using Restream to bring in Terry. So I'm going to turn that off because that was all over you.
It's all good.
But let's go. Let's turn back to you, Terry, because this is so much fun, and I love having you be a part of the team, and I love working with you. Let's first talk about like why it's important for someone to discover what their tone of voice is, because it's so easy to be going through the news feed and like, oh, here's a template for this and use my templates and you never have to worry about copy for the rest of your life. Like, why is it important for someone to really nail down their own voice?
Yeah, it matters so much because it really breathes life into your copy. So you bring up this great point that there's so many templates out there, and I give some to my clients too, but I try to make it seem like that we can add in that personality to it, because it's like, oh, this will help you convert if you use these certain words. And it could be just a lot of information, but sometimes you just need to peel back and just be like, how can I add in my personality to this? Like breathe life into the copy, because this is ultimately how your customers and how your people across the internet are going to read this copy. And so it's just so important to have this genuine and tone of voice that, again, it's authentic to you. And so then it shows up across the channels consistently. Like if you see an ad for somebody that's a business coach, and if they're using slang, trying to be cool, and they'd be like using words like triggered or just like bromance, things like that, just to the audience. But then you go to their website and it's just like suit and tie and being like, hey, let's boost your conversions and just all this uptight and buzzwords. You're just like, well, were they just doing this to grab the attention of a certain audience? Like it just doesn't make sense. So you can definitely lose a lot of people if the tone of voice just doesn't fit, consistently.
I love that you bring that up, because just recently I was working with a client and she stumbled upon this agency website and she's like, Stephanie, you have to look at this website. And I bleep you not, Terry. They're like, we're hip, we're cool, we're diverse. And it was no people of color whatsoever.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, this just doesn't fit. Yeah. But I do agree with you on why it's important to nail down who you are and what your voice is, because we talk a lot about when someone's able to read like a blog post and you're like, yeah, that totally sounds like Terry, or that totally sounds like Stephanie. Yeah. Then that's when you know that they're like, okay, I have this internal talk track of how Stephanie actually sounds like. This is her. It's believable. It's authentic. Yeah. And so it's super important. How are you able to nail that down for a client? Because I'm assuming, obviously, that the voice of Airbnb is very different from the voice of Joybird Furniture and Brooks Brothers, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So what are some surefire strategies that our viewers can use to really nail down and hone in their voice and not feel like, oh my God, I'm just puppeting everyone else?
Yeah. Well, one thing is one of the most important things is ask your customers right now, the people who are following you and engaging with you, and just simply ask, hey, I need your help with something, or I need your help with this. And be like, how do you feel when you read my post? Like, what emotions come up? And just from that, the real ones, as you can say, will reach back out to you and just be like, oh, I feel this. Like, I love how you talk about this way. And you can see how they're talking about you, right? And you can try to use some of that language. And of course, it should make sense to you. If that's what they're talking about, you're giving off that feeling. So I think that's one way to do it. And then also just even see how your competitors are talking about it and see how you can differentiate yourself as well. Because sometimes customer reviews as well, or competitor reviews, those people are talking about, problems that they're facing and that they're overcoming too. Right? So you can use some of that language that the customer base of you and your competitors are using to try to twist it into your own language and really just be simple, clear, indirect. Like, I provide live streaming solutions for big brands. But if you read a review from yourself or for a competitor and they're talking about how, oh my gosh, I was sweating and I was so nervous, ready to go live, but you made it so easy. You broke down these practical tips. Well, like, say that, structure it into your copy. I think that's what was super cool to with you, Stephanie, is reading some of the reviews of just how people have been responding with you and looking back how you talk to them. It's like your customers are giving you a bunch of copy, and it's just really you to kind of structure it and be like, let's continue to help them and take that.
I love that you mentioned that, because I do feel like when people comment on the show, I'm not even I'm not wearing oh, this is the hat I wear when I write emails, right? This is the hat that I wear when I'm writing a blog article. It's like, oh, you really thought that was interesting? Like, yay. Yeah. And it was funny because I remember you wrote something for me where it was like, oh, and P.S., by the way, the book is still available. Yeah. It's never going to get any old writing about that. I was like,
I think it was, I co-wrote a book, and it's like saying that never gets old. I actually like doing that. One thing I like to do is if I say something, I kind of think of what will make people kind of eye roll a little bit or think a little bit deeper about what I just said, and then put that in parentheses of just because some people will be like, oh, look, she's bragging again, but you're calling yourself out there in parentheses, oh, this never gets old. But it's fun. And, I've done that with, my own emails, done that helping with you too. And what's great is you do a ton of live videos, so I can easily see your personality. You just said yay and everything, and I'm like, it's easy to incorporate because that's just how people see you and how you communicate.
And see, this is why I love working with you. Like, anyone who is a visual communicator, seriously, because for us, it's really hard to find the right words sometimes, because you're like, well, how do you convey that, right? How do you convey that excitement? And every now and then I'll throw in a GIF. And so to have someone like you where they're able to bottle it up and put it into words is absolutely amazing. I mean, and even shout out to Mike Alton too, because sometimes I throw things at him and I'm like, is this too real? Is this too raw? He's like, maybe you need to scale it back a little bit. Because there are certain friends where I'm just like, hey, an animal chewed through my Ethernet cord. And should I write about that? He's like, well, what's your desired outcome? I was like, oh, that's true. I was just venting. I shouldn't send that out.
Yeah, that's a good point. Always think about what the outcome, what you want really the customer to do. I'm sorry, and I've seen some of these chats. I know Mike Alton just said #Adorkable, and I thought the same thing. I don't know if that's something you say often, Stephanie, but that's fantastic.
It was, you know how they always say when you're working on your brand, you should ask other people what they say about you?
Yeah, for sure.
And that term actually came to life. I think it was 2016 when my friend John had coined it for me. He's like, no, you're Adorkable. You're dorky but adorable. And I was like, should I be offended right now? And it's like trying to be offended by Winnie the Pooh, right? That's what's going on right now.
Yeah.
But it's been good. So your advice for people for nailing their tone of voice, what exercises we've talked about, taking a look at competitors, taking into consideration how you speak to your viewers just naturally.
Yeah. Sure.
Is there anything else that you would add to that as far as well, what is my tone of voice?
Yeah, right. Because I get comments in my Facebook group. I like asking them what are some of their biggest struggles with copy. and it's either capturing their own tone of voice, like on screen, like on paper, which is like screen is the paper of yesteryear, right? Or it's just like, how do I know that I'm using the right tone of voice for this industry? And so that's where like the reading the reviews and and the competitors, like seeing what they're doing. But when it comes to your own brand of voice, I have a couple exercises. It's really like your inner circles of copy. So take like what you do. So for me, it's copywriting. You could be live streaming, like the one big thing, good thing that you like to talk about that people know you for. And then draw a big circle with that title in the middle. And then just start writing out how you describe the problems people face and then the solutions. Just write it out kind of conversationally. Try not to be so technical. I mean, this is something for your eyes only. So just going to let it flow and just see how you talk about those problems. Like, oh, I had a crappy day, or, something like that. Just be real about it. And then take a couple adjectives, right? So you could do stuff like friendly, witty. Could be something, just like helpful, friendly, witty. Take these adjectives and then just elaborate them on another circle. And you can take these phrases that you use for problem solutions and be like, okay, I can be friendly here with this saying, right? And then just gets you to see like how you talk about your business. And then you start using that copy within your marketing materials and social media posts. Look back and see how you've commented on different engagement that you've received as well.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just like, all right, this is the real me. Like, I'm not sounding too stuffy. People are obviously connecting with me. And really, it's just a lot of it's at the end of the day stuff is like practice, like be consistent, keep showing up and see what is like attracting people to you. Right.
I love that. And I'm playing around too in the green screen. I don't know if you noticed this. This is in Restream. But did you
laugh? And I was like, oh no, what'd I just do?
No, I didn't realize that Restream puts me in this little box. Like, I kind of feel like Honey, I Shrunk Stephanie.
This way. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I shrunk. What just happened? I was like, what is going on? Why am I so teeny tiny?
Honey, I Shrunk Stephanie Liu, the next version in that series.
Seriously. Well, shout out to the crew that is here, like Ryan Baggett, who is joining in. He says that he's a visual communicator and learner as well. Yes, that's totally me. And so being able to have someone where they can transcribe the show into a blog post, repurpose it, is absolutely essential.
Yes.
Shout out to Anna, who says, definitely write about the rodent interference, because how 2020 was that? Terry? It was, okay, like, I'm just going to give you like stuff. Let me explain what happened. Okay, dude? So the LinkedIn crew, I told you guys about this. You guys have been watching. I was doing a course for LinkedIn Learning last weekend, right? And so they repositioned my desk and we made different changes to my computer and whatnot. And then it was back to work. But then it's weird because there are things that you move that you may not have remembered.
Yeah.
Well, and all of a sudden I noticed that like my internet was being really, really choppy. And I was like, what the hell is going on? And so I keep telling my husband, like, hey, can you check, right? And then finally I had to do this interview yesterday with Dana from StreamYard.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what's up with my internet. And I was like glitching, right? And my husband walks by and I'm like, and my husband needs to check the internet. Right? And then Terry, he legit walks by with an Ethernet cable chewed in half. So apparently a rodent had chewed, you guys, chewed into my Ethernet. And then it doesn't stop there. This is very 2020. And then today, Terry, so the entrepreneur webinar, my iMac, it started flickering. Like half of my screen didn't work. God. So now I had to do a presentation from like a laptop, and it was not the way, anything that could go wrong just went wrong.
Oh, man.
And then the host for Entrepreneur, he was saying, he was making a joke. He's like, you guys don't know what it's in this cup, but it's 5 o'clock somewhere. And I was like, dude, it could be 5 o'clock anywhere, but you know what's everywhere? 2020 is everywhere. And I was like,
you can find it.
You can find it. You can feel it.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's that. So if you guys are just tuning in, rodent interference, hashtag rodent interference. If you guys are just tuning in, we're talking about mastering your tone of voice. And I think this is really important for content creators or people kind of like me too, that are just visual communicators and struggle sometimes to find the right words. Yeah. Because Terry is really going to be sharing, exercises and strategies that have not only worked for him with all the amazing clients that he's worked with, but things that you can do as well. And so one of them that we talked about was you draw like a circle on a piece of paper, right?
Yeah.
And you write down about live streaming, and then you draw like another circle and you offshoot it as adjectives to describe it.
Yes. Yeah. Pick like 3 to 4 adjectives, but just start with three adjectives of like how do you feel like it describes your brand? Like, and how you deal with customers. So, I mean, again, it could be friendly, it could be a little bit witty, sarcastic, could be helpful, certain things that just really describe you. And then just think of the phrases that you say, because this is like your inner circle of copy, right? These are coming from you. And so just like, how would you describe this? Conversation with a bar, or like if somebody is narrating your story, it's like, how would you want them to talk about you, right? Like if Morgan Freeman was narrating your story, and it's like, could he be super funny? Would he be serious at this point?
Yeah.
But then also like one of the inner circle things is like the problem and solutions, because ultimately you got to figure out who your customer is and what do you want them to do. So like understanding their pain points and how you can help them is important too. And like how you describe that throughout it. It's kind of came up. We talked about that copy philosophy of, tell people how cool they can be when they use your product or service, instead of how cool you are for creating this thing, right? Because we naturally want to talk about ourselves. Like we're human beings at the end of the day. We like to, but don't forget to have some empathy. And I think that's what's missing in a lot of marketing, even whether it's B2B, whether it's B2C.
Where do you find your inspiration for copy? I mean, even just outside of your clients, because I would assume that you are consuming your clients' content. You're watching their videos, or you might be like, stalking what they're posting on social media. But where do you find your creativity? Do you find like a celebrity that they might mirror? Like, I'm obviously no Morgan Freeman, but
yeah.
But like, where do you find other inspiration?
Yeah, that's great. So if you know who your audience is and like think about who they are, and sometimes I even just look about like who they're following in return, like who they're commenting on, maybe what books they're reading, if they mention something, and look into that as well, and just see like why it's so engaging and like how they talk about themselves, and just kind of get some more of that personality, like what's working. It's like these are people that are part of my community and some of my customers reaching out to me. It's like, let's learn a little bit about kind of what makes them tick, not just from a tangible, like transactional thing, right? It's just like, what's their personality like, right? What would what would we have a conversation about? And just try to do that. Yeah. And man, other copy inspiration, just for myself, like, I don't know. I feel like I take midday walks and stuff and just have my note apps open and think of tweets to put out there, and just thinking of movies and just like maybe some metaphors and analogies that I can use, because that stuff would resonate with me. Right. And I just like, if people comment and get back to me on that stuff, it's like, these are the people I want to hang out with.
Oh, I love that. I love that you mentioned, analogies and metaphors. I actually have a book called I Never Metaphor I Never Liked. So it's a really fun book just to kind of go through, and I find myself, when I do come across a metaphor, I'll just add it into the book, and it just becomes like this swipe file. Do you have a swipe file for clients? I feel like, are you a paper guy? Are you an Evernote person? Like, what do you do?
I'm an Evernote person first, for sure. So I have swipe files for like myself, and sometimes I break it down in different industries that I like typically work with. But when I have a client and working on a big project, I'll have like a bookmark and just have that as like a folder. And then just if something comes across in my research, just put it all in there, and then have an Evernote of writing down thoughts as well. And what's great about, like, I'll write stuff on paper too, but like what's great about Evernote is I can take a picture on my phone and upload it to Evernote, and have that, because there's nothing like the pen to paper too.
Oh, okay. Mike Alton is probably in the comments like, this is why I keep telling you to use Evernote. I'm a Google Doc person. I don't know. I just feel like whatever's in an ecosystem, I could just search for it, and then it's there. Like, my brain is there. Yeah, see, here he is. He says +1 for Evernote.
Yeah, what's cool is like you can even take the picture and turn it into a document in Evernote. So if you do the find, like the search for it, like it shows up even from your picture because you made it a document.
Like, it actually reads the text?
Yeah.
No way.
Oh.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so then I need to go check that out. Oh man, okay. Evernote.
Yeah, it's super nice. Yeah, I like it a lot.
Love it. So if you guys are just tuning in, we're talking about mastering your tone of voice. Terry is doing a fantastic job in explaining everything about the strategies and the techniques and swipe files, all the things. So hopefully you guys are taking notes because this is fun. Now let's get into like the other fun stuff, which is like
Yeah, yeah.
psychology-backed copy hacks to get users to take action. Now,
Yeah.
I know that you are just as nerdy as I am about this because you have
Yeah, I
this
love this stuff.
fantastic podcast and you're always like pushing out things that like, these are things that you should do, things,
Yeah,
things you shouldn't do, or instead of this, do this. What's
yeah.
like your favorite copy hack that you tend to find has just withstood the test of time?
Oh man. I feel like one that I talk about a lot and can kind of rephrase it is just this me/we test that I like to do. And it's really just about putting the customer first again, but using aspirational language, right? And so a lot of times we talk about ourselves by saying like we provide innovative solutions, but just twisting that and see how can we take that we into a you. Like what is this here that we can do? It's like we are reimagining task management. It could be like a thing for like a task management tool like Asana or Monday. An example I like to use and kind of flip that around to use you is like open one app to see your to-do list instead of 5. So we completely turned it on like to their pain point and what they can solve by using this instead of saying, hey, we created this for you, aka we're cooler than you and you're on the back burner. We can flip that around. And now it's talking about them because we like to visualize ourselves taking action. Like when we see certain words, that stuff just triggers in our brain these different memories, right?
Yeah.
And like a big thing with copywriting is to use visualization, and you can use these visual terms. Like I said, open up one app. So you can literally, you're starting to imagine yourself opening up one app on your desktop, MacBook, what have you. And stuff like feel and see and look, like anything like that. Like you could like start like an email subject line, like look under your chair and see your prize. It's like, what are you talking about? And it's like open, like you could open more. It's just like using some fun language, right? Just to able to visualize that because we like to see ourselves, in certain situations.
Okay, so I love that piece because earlier this year I spoke at Social Media Marketing World about like how to be irresistible on camera. And one of like the hacks that I was talking about is that in our brains we have these things called mirror neurons.
Yep.
And if someone is watching someone experience and unbox a product and they get excited, right?
Yeah.
You can't help but like all of a sudden have that twinge of excitement too. Like what's going on?
Yeah.
This is also why like emotional copy, emotions in videos draws the viewers in. So I love that you're saying use things like look, feel, imagine.
It's subtle things that you can do. Yeah. And I love that you mentioned mirroring, and because it's tough to do with copy sometimes because like on live video, you do kind of see like monkey see, monkey do type of things. But some even techniques that I like to do just in conversations with customers or clients. And if somebody just says, hi, Terry, exclamation point to me, right? Like respond in the email the same way. Like it's like going back to the mirroring thing. It's like with negotiators, when they do that, putting their arms folded, repeating words that they say to each other. It's like subconsciously we're starting to feel like we're connected in some way. So even just like repeating some of the things subtly in email, like in a reply back to them, or even like a reply on social media could just be like, and that's how I got to this. It's like, oh, so that's how you got there. That's very cool. Here's what I did. Right? It just shows that you're kind of listening, and we start to feel a little bit more connected, and you're really more likely to have a genuine and just engaging conversation with one another.
And P.S. by the way, that's actually a really good dating tip too. So if you repeat back, I mean, Terry and I are both married, not to each other, but I feel like
100%.
Yeah, I feel like even when I talk to my husband, I have to be like, so what you're saying is
right.
So that you want to get like that level of, okay, we're on the same pace. Like you're leading and pacing them at the same time. And so you try to find some common themes as like, so as you're sitting there watching this, listening to what Terry and I have to say, you're really going to enjoy this episode because we're just dropping all of the knowledge bombs today. And that's your pacing and your lead, like finding your common ground and then leading them to where that is. So I love that everyone's kind of in the comments, mirror neurons, especially for unboxing, right? Yeah. Using the word imagine, changing the we's into me's or the we's into you's.
Yep. Yeah. And then there's like, if we're talking about just how our brain works, obviously, it's like there's neural coupling too that goes on. That's why storytelling is so impactful. Like if I start saying like, imagine being at Six Flags Great America, which is like the theme park for Six Flags near me. It's like I'm on a roller coaster. I'm sweating. I'm crazy. It got stuck. I'm just telling the story. I'm tying it back. But just by using this visualization language, like having imagine, like, okay, we're really just getting people to follow along with me. It's like the neural coupling that's happening is like they're starting to put themselves into the same situation. Like we're starting to feel connected now because they're starting to remember some memories and some emotion of them being selves at a roller coaster, how they would react if they were stuck on a roller coaster.
Yeah.
You know?
That's Terry for you. He would say neurocoupling, which sounds so awesome. And I'd be like, you guys, this is like a Vulcan mind meld, you know? Like,
I'm just making up these words. Like you probably Google them and it's like, I don't see any of this, what he's talking about. I just sound cool and smart.
So someone just bought neurocoupling.com.
Exactly. It's like, man, that's good. Even if it doesn't make sense or exist.
So if you guys are just tuning in, we're talking about mastering your tone of voice and really being able to take your personality outside from your main piece of content and still sound like you and inject that personality across all other different forms. And so Terry has already given us so much input as far as like exercises that you can do. I really like again, because I'm a visual person, like as soon as you said it, I was like, I do want to just write live streaming in a circle and then shoot that out.
Inner copy circle. Yeah.
Yeah. The inner copy circle. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
And then
I think it's just like, it's so cool to just do that exercise. Like I know when you came on Proceed with Passion Live with me, you gave that your 10 by 10 formula and just like breaking it down like that, just having that like structure is like, oh, this is perfect. Like fold the paper in half, like 10 questions that you know your customers ask and then 10 that they should ask you. I was like, this is brilliant. And I mean, it may just seem like, okay, yeah, but it's like, you got to start somewhere. Like write this stuff down, take 30 minutes, do the exercise, maybe come back to it a little later. But yeah, it's effective.
I like that too, in the sense that like, if you are going to work with someone, I could hand over like the inner copy circle and just be like, hey, so this is usually how I describe Ecamm Live or Restream or just live streaming in general. Yeah. I feel like I've kind of coined the term that OBS for me felt like the IKEA of live streaming. I had to build it with like jack instructions, It's like that was how I describe OBS Studio. And if any other piece of copy came out where it doesn't even include that line, you'd be like, that's not Stephanie.
Yeah. Well, it's so good too that you just like brought up an example of using a metaphor. Like it's like the IKEA. I mean, just speaking of like psychology hacks when it comes to copywriting, it's like as humans, like we like to see tangible things. And so sometimes we can use this generic copy and we're explaining something, but it's like, why not explain it like it has, like I was working with this other team and we were talking about this and I was like, if you're saying something's powerful, it's like, why don't you say something like it's with Thor-like power or like powerful as King Kong, something like that. Right. But like metaphor, it's like now we're seeing something tangible. Because like innovative solutions and quality customer service, it's like we don't really have the best way to visualize that. It could be like, hey, we have representatives who will speak to you or email you within 24 hours. Like that's more specific, right? Yeah. And so we can start to visualize that person emailing us back. And so those are just some quick tips of just like thinking like it's easy to get stuck writing these buzzwords and trying to be quick, but sometimes too, if it fits your tone of voice, it's like be a little bit more specific and fun with it. Let them visualize.
I love that. Just the fact that you said King Kong made me crack up because I was like, oh, I would love some Thor-like power.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I could totally create a GIF of that. I was like, Stream Deck. That's amazing.
Yeah, powerful as Thor's hammer, stuff like that. Like that stuff's fun. And it's just like, easily, if you're like a comic book nerd, Marvel nerd, you can add that stuff in there because again, like if people are engaging with that, it's like, yes, these are the people I want to hang out with.
That is true. Okay, so
they're probably going to become customers one day.
Yeah, so then let's talk about that because some people feel like they don't want to add too much personality because it might turn off some audience that then some people won't buy. What are your thoughts on that? Should you always have agreeable copy like vanilla copy or should you try to segment your audience?
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's a time and place for just kind of keeping it super simple like that, of course. But yeah, I mean, I just think it just helps build such a better genuine connection and it just people who are going to be customers not once but 2, 3 times, and then you're talking about word of mouth. So it's just like this feedback loop that keeps happening as well when you're adding in a little bit more personality, you know?
Yeah, I love that. I was reading also Anna's comment. She was saying, cheers for neurodiversity. Our ADHDers and dyslexia people can think full 360. I
Mm,
love that too. And just seeing how people think and when you take them in a journey.
yeah,
You know, when you were talking about telling a story, right, and using the word imagine, because then people will go along that
yeah,
journey with you. Speaking from like a presenter experience, it's so interesting when you do tell a story and when you do use words like imagine, because all of a
yeah,
sudden you could kind of see the tension in the audience, just
yes,
like, okay, let's
yeah,
go there.
yeah,
And they just kind of sink in their
yeah.
chair and they're like,
It's like,
tell me,
okay, go on,
go on.
right?
Tell me more about this Thor-like power.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And you bring up tension. It just reminds me, I was reading Seth Godin's book, Godin. Does anybody really know what it
I
is?
have
I
no
don't know.
idea.
It's like we hear him talk, but then it's so easy to second guess. Like, how did we pronounce that? Um, he talks about like a big thing is creating that tension, like raise some stakes here. It's like, what's your life going to be like if you don't solve this problem now? Right. Or just like if you follow along, it's like, what's going to happen if I don't hear the rest of this story? It's like they're talking to me like this is so interesting, right? It's like creating that tension and just like being mindful of that when writing. And if you're writing a sales copy email and you want them to do some type of action at the end of it, which is pretty much what copywriting is, it's
Yeah.
like, all right, how can I get them to be curious enough to read the next line? And then
Mm,
how am I going to get them to spend their hard-earned money? Like this is stuff from really Joseph Sugarman, who wrote, this AdRex copywriting handbook. And it's just like when you have this foundation of get them to read the next line and really get them to spend their hard-earned money, it's like
yeah.
then you can start to find ways to do that. You don't have to reinvent the wheel and come up with all these new rules, but there's some structures and different things that you can learn to come up with new ideas, to achieve those two things.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you also mentioned books that you read, because I think
Mhm.
even for me, that's just the book that we launched. But over
Yes.
there is like all of my favorite books, like hypnotic writing,
Yeah.
right? Um, NLP hacks, cashvertising is like another good one that I
Man, I
like
need
to
to read. I
have.
need to read that one. I keep
It's
hearing about
actually it's a really good one.
it.
The copy itself kind of felt like too salesy, but anything
Yeah.
that deals with human behavior, I'm
Yeah.
game for.
Yeah.
And so
It's
when I
awesome.
was reading through it, it's great because it talks about the brain hacks, then it gives you an example, then it gives you an actual case study. So you're like,
Yeah.
okay. And so if you wanted to, you could kind of create like a journal of like, okay, day one, I'm going to try this hack and see what happens.
Yeah.
And then just list down, did it work? Did it not work? And kind of go from
Right.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I'll turn around here. Not the best stuff, but like, hey, Whipple, squeeze this is really cool. It's got a lot of good ads and breaks them down.
Yeah.
Obviously, you are a badass, like thinking fast and slow. Unconscious branding is one where it talks about just like, again, how we think like subconsciously, just like how we're like gravitated just towards the buy because we're
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like those books have been so interesting, like to me, like biology and Brainfluence has been a good one. Like Roger Dooley is really cool. He talks about neuromarketing all the time.
Oh, he is the best. I don't know if you follow him on Twitter, but I've always just been like, does he respond to his tweets? Because I put his actual blog like on an
Oh
RSS
man,
feed because I was like,
yeah,
boom, boom, boom. But I
yeah.
absolutely love it.
Yeah, I follow him on LinkedIn, so get his alerts when he like puts out new stuff. And his Brainfluence one is so good. Like any marketer, copywriter, anybody watching this, if you're selling something online, it just really changes how you talk about yourself and sell it. Like just have some empathy for people, but like, all right, they think this way. It's kind of like shortcuts really just to get in their head, which may sound a little morbid and weird, but I don't know. That's like kind of ultimately, it's in a way, what you want to do. You
Oh
want to help
yeah.
your customer,
Oh
right?
yeah. The way that I usually tell my clients, it's like they're brain hacks to get you on the fascination fast track. They're just like
Yeah.
brain
Okay.
hacks, boom, get you there. And they're like, oh, I like that. Or even, going back to the metaphors, I love the Disney Fast Pass, right? Say like this is
Who
like a
doesn't?
fast pass. Because who doesn't want the fast pass,
See,
right?
that's so good. Your fast pass because it's something tangible. People think about it. That's
Yeah.
so good. I like that a lot. It's
So
way
if
different. See, it's more personality than just saying fast track, right?
that's true, that's true.
So good.
If you guys have any of your favorite metaphors, if you have any of your favorite books, by all means share that with us, because I know I'm going to come back to this part of the replay 40 minutes in and say, okay, what was on his bookshelf? Like, what was all that?
Yeah.
Because that was really good.
Yeah. Yeah. Just speaking like Roger Dooley's book, it's like 100 ways to persuade consumers to buy. So it's just like, yeah,
Yeah.
but it's such cool. He gives such cool examples. I feel like I may have elaborated, and paraphrased one of them as we were talking just to kind of see some examples, but it's really cool stuff in that book.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So here's Mike Alton, and
Great.
he's saying, we're all Luke listening to Obi-Wan and just barely grasping the power we're about to wield when handed the lightsaber. See, that is such a
Wow,
Mike Alton thing, because I could never say that.
man.
Oh,
Me and Mike need to do like a coffee chat, something after this, because like we've been like liking and kind of going back and forth. Got connected through you, Stephanie. So let's get that set up, Mike, for sure.
For sure. Yeah, definitely get that set up and have that going. So if you guys have any other questions about tone of voice, just finding it, how to relay that, by all means, drop them in the comments below, because I feel like for me, even today, like in the Entrepreneur webinar, when I was talking about repurposing content, majority of it was very visual. I was like, and then you take this tweet, and then this tweet becomes a story, and then the story becomes a story highlight, right? Yeah. But it was very visual and fast too. And so being able to do the tone of voice from a blog post is super duper helpful as well. What would you say, Terry? What are some other things that clients can do for you that would make your job easier?
Oh my goodness. Honestly, like a big thing, I touched on it, is like sharing competitors, or not even competitors, just brands that they like, and like, as long as they have some expectations, like we can't really, if it makes sense for your brand, because like when we talk about like how I did some stuff for Brooks Brothers, it's like, that's a luxury clothing brand. So we're not going to use all this necessarily fun language. Like luxury is really long, for lack of a better word, long-winded, like exquisite sayings, right? Like look up almost any medical or like this, like a spa that you may think of, like in your city, like a bougie hotel and spa. It's like how they describe their services is just like ridiculous. It's like, oh my gosh, an elegant, replenishing service just takes you and winds you down, and it's just like, it's like all these crazy adjectives. But here's the thing: it's like it works, because when we think of luxury, we like, that's what we think of. Like we want to hear that, and so that's just like one thing, that like just knowing the industry and like the brand and knowing your customers. Like if they could just give me kind of some ideas of who their audience is, like avatars, where they spend their time, could just help direct me in the right, in the right direction to, to research. Like reading Amazon reviews. It's a SaaS company like Capterra is great because they have so many good reviews. Udemy, I find, is a really good one. A lot of course creation. There's tons of reviews from that, like on industry related topics. So it's like, look up a course for social media marketing, and you can find all these pain points of people be like, oh my gosh, I came here because I was struggling with XYZ, and now I can do this. It's like, okay, you can use that language in describing your services. And if somebody says like, this pissed me off for days, it's just like, all right, we can just say like, quit being pissed off about finding this problem. Like one client I read a review, and they were talking about how like I was Googling forever trying to find this, and finally I stopped and I found you guys, and I came here. And so I used in a headline on a like services page, and it was just like, stop Googling, how to blank, like the problem. It's like, you're in the right place. Because that's like customer language, and it's like fun. It's like different. Like stop Googling. It's something we can all visualize.
Yeah. No, I like that. That's so funny, because I was like, okay, I've done the Amazon reviews. I've looked at that, but I've never thought to look at Udemy.
What did I say? Udemy? I don't know. You see?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's like a goaded.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, that's actually really great advice. Udemy. Okay, cool. Sometimes I would go, like even coming up for titles of the show.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to find inspiration for titles and headlines by going to Amazon because I'm just like,
Yeah, it's a great
what is the book?
resource.
Yeah, because I'll try to do like a parody off of it or like a riff or a play on words, alliteration. But usually sometimes I figured, well, if their editors had already, gone through all of
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
I could just swap a word or two and then it'll work.
Yeah, I mean, they're giving you a framework that works because, like, I actually was just doing I did an Instagram post, an IG story on this yesterday, and it was about how we really buy books. What attracts us to pick up the book and read more, or buy it from our cart, or rent it from the library, it's the subtitles because they promise us something. Like the
Yeah.
title's cool. It's like that gets us curious, right? But that subtitle of it is just like how to build a revolutionary blank. It's like the 10 ways to go from this without that. Like those are the type of things that they say. So that right there is a great headline formula. And like you said, Stephanie, you kind of just tweaked it a little bit for yourself. You
Yeah.
don't want to copy it if that's like what your industry is, but you can easily reframe it for your own, benefit on your headline. It's like when
Yeah.
I get stuck, I definitely go there and it's just like, you know what? This sounds really good. Let's just do this in a post or subject line and we'll see. It's like I'm consistently posting, so my life doesn't depend on this one post, right? So it's just like you keep testing. You
I
keep
like
creating.
that idea of testing too. I always tell people that like my favorite comedians are like Kevin Hart and Dave Chappelle. And
Yeah.
I know that whenever they hit the stage, they don't go to the main stage and then just leave it all out there. It's like they're testing out small
Oh,
jokes just to see if it's going to land.
yeah,
Like, should I
great
say it like
point.
this? Should I do it like that? And so from like a marketer's perspective, this is why like I love doing my Instagram stories, right? Because I just like,
Yeah.
you guys, I'm working on this. How does this sound? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. And
Yeah.
then they'll let me know, like, yeah, I'd totally be interested in that, or no, I don't want to do that. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love the idea of testing in that sense.
Yeah. Sometimes like I bring back to like the parentheses things. I'm like, does this sound cool? Like, do people still say this, use this? Just like, again, I just find like I have this, like, I try to have this fun personality and witty personality, like not to be so serious. And so like, I just like, make fun of, let's make fun of myself a little bit. Like, just think of just like friends
Yeah.
from college and stuff like that. Like we can easily just rap it. And it's like, we got to be able to give it back to people. So that's like kind of where that mindset comes from.
I love that. It's like, do people still say this? I felt that. Like as soon as you said that, because lately to unwind from like homeschooling in the morning and then working and all that stuff, I find peace in just watching ridiculous TikTok videos. And
Yeah.
I love the millennials that are on there and the Gen Zs that are just like, you millennials, like we don't even say that anymore. I'm just like, what? That's canceled?
I know, right?
It's terrible. But it's good.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, you could just be like, parentheses, if this isn't a thing, please let me know so I can not say this again, type of thing. It's like, go ahead, do that. Instead of somebody commenting that, be like, it's like, no, Stephanie, you're cool. But maybe for a couple more days, you're cool. Like if I want people's opinion, sometimes I'll just be like, we cool with this, question mark, and then give the two examples or something and like, let us know. And
I love
again,
that.
but it's really just about like putting it out there and just testing it. And, it's just a great place is Twitter, just to see how people are talking, like marketing Twitter, and just having those conversations.
Yeah.
Speaking
Yeah.
of inspiration, like I feel like a lot of it just comes from that.
From Twitter, really?
Yeah. I
I
know it
you
can
know,
be like a weird place and like obviously a lot of information there, but what's cool is you can block a lot of like different phrases and obviously people. But yeah, marketing Twitter, man, so many cool creative people, like agencies working for different brands, not necessarily entrepreneurs, freelancers, but just like talking about like the different trends and yeah, you just get a really interesting idea of like how people talk about marketing in today's brands.
that is a good point. Yeah, I do. I have very specific Twitter lists because there are articles that I enjoy, like live streaming. And so I'll always follow the journalist, the person like where that's their beat. And then I'll follow them and then I'll find myself like following another person.
Yeah.
That is very true. It doesn't, I guess it just wasn't in my conscious awareness, but I'm like, yeah, I do go to Twitter because I find that you only have so much text. And so when they say something for you, then it's like, am I going to read the next tweet for a thread? Like, this is a thread? You know,
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah,
how do you keep me engaged? That's actually a really, really good advice. I like that.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so like information, Twitter's great. It's like as a sports fan, if like there's an injury I see like when it happened, it's like Twitter search because there's just so many beat reporters and stuff that are constantly feeding it out live. Like that's what their job is. So you can just find out about stuff so soon. Like if Instagram's down or like if Squarespace isn't working, like where I host my site, Twitter, Squarespace down. And it's like anybody else, you see the latest tweets, like, all right, so it's not just me.
Yeah, I know. Everyone's always like, "Oh, you should get a Facebook down detector." I was like, "No, I go to Twitter." And then everyone on Twitter, who's usually there on a daily basis, are like, "Oh,
Yep.
the Facebook people are here. Oh, the script."
Yep. Yeah, 100%.
I love it. Anna says that she follows authors too. That's
Yeah,
a
I like that too. That's awesome. I'll tell you what, it's like one like this You Are a Badass book, like Jen Sincero. It's just like she does. If you've read that book or decide to read it, it's like that's just like almost a masterclass about just using your tone of voice and personality, talking about such a serious subject of improving your life.
Yeah.
And it's just like she makes it seem so relatable. And
Yeah.
she's pretty fun to follow too, like on social media. But that's
Jen
good.
Sincero.
I should follow a little bit more authors. We talked about Roger Dooley and like his tips, but just like seeing kind of like how they talk about themselves.
Yeah, that's so good. All right. Well, Terry, this has been absolutely amazing. And I do have something for everyone because you were talking about some goodies. So let me go ahead and throw this up on the screen real quick,
Yeah.
and then you can walk them through it. So we'll do this here. Let me get that up real quick, and then I will. Oh, and you could totally talk.
There we go.
Because I'm like, I'll put you.
Okay.
I'll put me in. Wait, how do I
Yeah,
do
yeah. If it's scrolling it down, so that I have some free downloads on my site. If you go to terryschillingwrites.com, there's 2 freebies. One is the ultimate high converting homepage copy playbook, and then how to write about what you do for a living. So the homepage copy playbook gives you kind of this playbook of how to start a headline, where to put your call to actions, when's that right time, different structures of when you should talk about your services, how you can do that, how can you reframe it. Some of the things I touched on in our conversation today, just about, letting the customer know how cool they are or can be instead of how cool you are. It could be just another way to refresh your homepage copy and look back at it. And then how to write about what you do for a living is just this common thing of like if we're networking back in the day when we could shake hands and network with everybody, but now we're doing these virtual meetups. It's just like in his I don't know, I guess really just as Americans, like a lot of it, is just like, what do you do for a living, right? It's like, so what do you do? And it's always kind of like, it's like almost like raise your hand if it's like almost different answer like every time, right? So this just gives you a 3 like piece framework and like a worksheet to help kind of write a little bit more detailed and engaging way about what you do. It's great for like your bios on social media and even to use like in person, just to kind of have that type of language. Like, oh yeah, I'm a copywriter and I really help, people get their ideas out of their head on screen, and that can connect with people over and over, stuff like that. It's just a different way to look besides just saying, oh, I'm a copywriter for big brands. And then it's like, oh, okay. So what does that mean? You can answer that question before the next one.
I love that. Yeah, I feel like sometimes people, when they're promoting their work, they're like, well, I'm just going to name these brands, and that should show you like how badass and cool I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
I want to mention one more thing if I can.
Go for it. Go for it.
So I recently started this new project that I'm doing. It's just for anybody out there who maybe just have like a bigger creative agency or work for a larger company. It's called Copy for Your Company. Where I've been doing some workshops and virtual trainings and even some master classes for companies and just talking about some of these psychology tips, talking about email copywriting, like best practices, helping companies with their website. It's almost like a go-to copy chief. So it's not like a full-time thing, right? But it's just like you have like access to some of my knowledge, some of my best proven tips. So email me about that if you're interested too, if that's okay to do, Stephanie. But
yeah, absolutely.
I looked up copyforyourcompany.com and the URL was available, and I'm like, yep, swiping this.
Wait. So you have it now? Wait, say it again so I could type it in.
Yeah, copyforyourcompany.com.
That's cool.
Should go to my web. Should go to my
Copy
website.
for your.
Was working on the copy for the site earlier today. So it's kind of like under construction, but it's there.
How
Yeah.
often do you find yourself like writing copy all the time?
Oh my gosh. I feel like a lot. Sometimes I'll go back to like past client projects and just like, hey, looking at this now, just like, what if we tweak this? And like, sometimes they don't respond, but it's like, I don't know, maybe the thought that counts. I think we could, reframe this. You know?
I love all the parentheses. Like, is it the thought that counts? Like, that is so. I just love that personality, which is probably why we click so well. But you guys, if you didn't catch that, it's copyforyourcompany.com.
Yeah.
And then
Find me and message me on my site there to learn more, and maybe we can work together, do some trainings. Been doing a couple of them now. It's been really fun, just like talking about copy. And what's cool is just like it empowers people. It's like, hey, you guys can now add copywriter to your LinkedIn skills, and I'll endorse it.
and
Then that should be. All right, shut this down. I need to write that on that page right now.
Say it again for them louder in the back.
It's like empower people to write better copy, and you can add copywriting to your skill set on LinkedIn, and I'll endorse you. Is that good?
That was good. That's going to be your.
You know what's super funny too? If you go back to that site, like my picture there, that beautiful candid picture of me typing copy by no looking, which is so natural. I'm wearing like almost the same. I'm wearing the same shirt today. I noticed that. I'm like, man, you're going to be sharing my avatar and this. And I'm like, I wonder if anybody caught that comment. And if I brought it to your attention, it is what it is.
Is it all the same shirt? Oh my God.
It's the same shirt, different undershirt. But I thought about that earlier today. I'm like, you know what? Cool, man. I feel good in it. So, and I feel like a good hair day today too. So just, I'm going with it today.
You know what? I totally feel you on that. Because with the LinkedIn course that we were doing last week, I had to wear like this basic black shirt, which for me was always like, this is so basic, whatever, blah. Yeah. And it was like a 10-hour filming day. And then we had to shoot like additional stuff like remotely. So I had to put on the same damn black shirt again. And then by the third time that I had to do that, like later on, I was like, I want to burn this shirt. Like, I was like, I am so done with this.
Oh, man.
Like, I will never do another live show with that black shirt ever again. I was so over it.
You could just kind of frame it like, I've watched these like minimal clothing. I'm saving money and just keep a net neutral tone. And then like just mid clothes, and then like your husband in the background's like, no, she's not. Oh man.
Are you?
Somebody just said, sorry, like you're on brand. I'm like, yes, we stay on brand. Same shirt.
You stay on brand. See, yeah. God, yeah, no, I'm so over that shirt. It wasn't even, it's funny because when you're doing like a production shoot, they'll say like, show us examples of like your best clothes. And I was like, oh, let me show you. Right? And then they chose like, you know how like even when you're pitching a client, you're like, here's 3 ideas and here's like the 2 best ideas and here's like the jankiest idea. That was basically the outfit. And I was like, what?
Oh, man.
All right. So you guys, this has been absolutely amazing. Yeah, as you know, Terry is so much fun to talk to, and his brain is always thinking in copy, writing witty things. I love the parentheses. Just all of that just cracks me up. My whole face just hurts from laughing. Yeah,
I had a client once who like told me, he's like, I'm not a big fan of that. And we like, because I did a parentheses thing, it's like I said something and then like comma right question mark, just like this is cool, right? Just for example. And he's like, yeah, it's like I see what you're doing there, but I don't really like it. And I'm like, it's fine. I mean, that's what the client wants. But I'm like, damn, man, I feel like that's what kind of like connects with people. It's kind of my thing. Felt a little bit weird, I'm like, all right, but you know what? Now I know Stephanie loves it, so it's cool.
How do you pick yourself up from like when you're like, oh, they're totally gonna love this, and then they don't love that? How do you like? How do you?
Oh man, I just say, well, they paid me, so I'm out. It's cool. No,
there you go.
You know what? I just find like just to agree with them and like make just like be like, that's a great point, and then just like don't fight them on it. Not to be like a little bit more serious about it. It's just like don't take it personal. It's like it wasn't for them. It's like cool. Like my thing is like let's get this right, because I'm not going to put my ego out there and be like, are you sure? I think this will really work for you. But if they're like stern on it. It's like, all right, let's get this right. And I'll work with them on that. But it is like sometimes like you want to be fun and I'm like, oh, I think they may like this. And like, it's not really fitting. I'm like, oh man, thought I was being pretty creative there.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that too sometimes when I'm like producing shows for clients. I'm like, oh, and then you can do this to mix it up. And they're like, yeah, no. I'm like, oh, okay. Anyways, shout out to Mike Alton, who says that he just assumed that it was standard copywriting uniform.
Yeah, right. Just a button up, big frame glasses. I'm like, oh yeah, that's what it is.
You have your own little avatar for that. And yes, Anna, once this course is up, that black shirt, that's it. Maybe I'll do an Instagram live. I'm like, and here goes that shirt. But we'll do it in a safe environment because I don't know if you guys have heard, California's on fire. So
yeah, you don't want to be like all over the internet being like entrepreneur who burned a black shirt that she was sick of wearing on constant live shows, started next wildfire.
No! Cancel universe. That was a joke. Do not unsubscribe.
Unsubscribe. Yeah.
All right. Look,
man.
you guys, this has been a ton of fun. You know where to find him. If not, let me just put this on the screen for you again. TerrySchillingWrites.com, free downloads. And then
follow me on social media too. You can find me just, Terry Schilling. You can almost, if I smile for like 2 seconds, like you'll see that picture because I'm wearing the same damn shirt. Man.
I was like, wait a second. Should I take like a picture and put it in Evernote and then be like, search for this image? And then it will just show
Google will be like Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. You know what? I was like, this is a good picture. I feel like I may need to switch it up a little bit, but yeah, you'll find it out. That's a great point.
Maybe next year it'll be like,
I need to market that. Be like, hey, where to find me? It's like, take this picture and
take this picture. It's like a QR code, but it's like your standard copywriting uniform.
Yeah. That. Oh man.
All right, you guys.
This was so much fun. Yeah. Everybody with the comments, thank you so much. Looks like we're having a good time.
They're the best, aren't they? They're just so much fun. All right, you guys, find Terry, follow him. It's like every week that you're putting something up on LinkedIn, like every Tuesday, the Copy Podcast, right?
Copy Corner, yeah. Yep.
Yes, got it.
Check it out, Copy Corner Podcast. Episodes in 10 minutes or less, which is great. You just learn a tip quickly instead of sticking around for 40 minutes. It's quick and easy.
Well, you stuck around for this hour, and you guys were amazing.
Sorry, yeah, I should have, yeah, but this is a different medium.
That is true. All right, you guys, we will see you later. Terry, stick around in the green room. All right, bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.